One is ready. Recording will start soon. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Hello, lovely people. And this is yet another interview from Jackie and Irvin are accidentally in charge. I'm Jackie. Irvin can't be with us today, so you get all me. But actually, with the three of us, I think maybe that's good. So what I want to start with, I definitely want to have you guys introduce yourself. Today's episode's a little different because usually it's an interview with one individual, but today is more about your project. So we're going to be talking about Drop Dead Generous, which I managed to completely mess up every time I try to explain it. Like, I can never remember how much money there is or what you're doing. Like, anyway, so you do a much better job of like telling us about all of this. So go ahead and John, go ahead and introduce yourself first, and then Tom, and then you can tell me about your amazing deal. So
I was going to say let beauty go before age, but
oh well, Tom, you want to go first?
That's very kind, John. I am, about 6 months younger than you, I think. Tom, my name is Tom Cledwin. I live just outside London. I consider myself these days mostly as someone who's just fortunate enough to work with John. John, after you.
Nicely done.
It's probably the nice thing you've ever said to me, Tom. I'm John M. Sweeney. I'm from not so sunny Cork in Ireland. And just have the pleasure and the privilege of doing this very, very special project with the genius that is Tom Cledwin. I'm still trying to figure out his flaws because, like, he looks great, he is great, he's an incredible mind. I mean, I think
that's his flaw, is that he's just too perfect, I think.
Yeah.
Are you sure he's not an AI? Like, is this another I'm being fooled thing?
Yeah. You'll see my flaws one day, John. Give me time.
I mean, I guess I always come back to the fact that you're English, Tom. Do you know what I mean? Being Irish,
that is a very big flaw.
Yes. I won't hold it against you, though.
Are you actually you're actually English? Like,
actually, no, I'm
right.
So we often have this conversation, and I end up just apologizing for being English. And then someone pointed out that my surname is very Welsh.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah. So I'm actually kind of mostly Welsh. It's just I've always lived in England, aside from living a bit abroad, but I've barely been to Wales. So I've never really considered myself Welsh. It was, it's come down from the male figures in my family, like names tend to do wrongly, and no one above me in my family cares about being Welsh. But I've just the last couple of weeks decided that I'm Welsh, and I'm going, I'm going to lean into that a little bit more. So yeah, but technically probably a quarter Welsh, I think. So really authentic.
Well, I'm really happy to have both of you here. John and I have known each other for quite a while. Like, we met at Misfit Con, which comes up also at least once an episode, and I still haven't given any backstory on that. So someday I'm gonna have like just a whole podcast episode about that in itself, or get AJ on probably, at some point. But anyway, we met at a conference in Fargo, North Dakota, of all places.
Yeah.
And that's where I had the great delight of first hearing John say 333, which I just love every time. And I can't do this without, come on, John, do the thing.
What was it? I think I remember what I said, that if I had $1 for every time somebody asked me was I Irish, I'd have $333. I think that was the line of my thoughts. Yeah.
It's an unforgettable experience. So, no, I completely fell in love with John during that Misfit Con. You're one of my favorite people I've ever met. And then here we are, 10 years later, we're at South by Southwest this past March. And John comes through this immense crowd of people that's crowded around the bar. And I just grabbed onto your shirt tails, and then Tom grabs on behind me and he's like, I don't know who you are, but you're following John. And I'm like, wherever John goes, it's going to be interesting. And somehow this ends in you guys were running a little workshop within that party, and I just kind of crashed it, and got to be part of it, and I got really fascinated with this project that you're doing, which is Drop Dead Generous. So tell me, like, backstory. How did you guys first meet each other? Like, how did this get started?
Tom, would you like to share this?
Yeah, because I'm going to have a little bitch about it in the process. So Jackie, a couple of years ago now, I was helping a chap called Chris Anderson who runs TED Talks.
That guy. He's banned from the podcast.
Right,
All New York Times best-selling Chris's are banned. You would be surprised how many of them there are. They are banned. They're not allowed. So you were with that guy.
Yeah. I think there might even be 2 best-selling New York Times authors who are called Chris Anderson as well, which makes it doubly confusing.
Yeah.
But he, he's an amazing bloke who's had a front row seat to every TED Talk there's ever been, and he was starting, and still is, frankly, pretty worried about where the world's going, and as a addition to that, worried about the role that the internet is playing in that. So he wrote a book called Infectious Generosity, and it's all about the power of kindness and its potential to spread online and influence others in a positive way, like was never before possible. There's a copy.
I got that from the library, actually. Yeah.
So as he was writing this book and I was supporting him, we were doing some research to try and find some great examples of people who have leveraged the internet and our connectivity to start and spread kindness movements. And that's where we first came across John, and I'm sure we'll get the suspended coffees story at some point. But we interviewed John early on and wrote about him in the book. And then as the book got published, John sort of came to a few events to help promote it. And eventually I dropped him a message on X of all places saying, next time you're in London, let's go for a beer. And next thing I heard is that he was in London, but he hadn't replied to my message. And eventually we did.
John not replying to messages?
No,
I didn't think about that.
To be fair, I mean, not checking X often is a virtue.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we then so we spent a couple of days together, which would have been last May now, so about 18 months ago. And at the time Chris and I were trying to think, what could we kind of do next that was taking inspiration from the book and from a lot of the ideas within the book. And so that's when I started chatting to John and brainstorming some things we could do together.
So John, that kind of leads us right back to the suspended coffees, which is what you were doing when I first bumped into you in Fargo, right? Like, so tell us a little bit about that project, and for people that have never heard of it, like, give us a little context.
Yeah. So 27th of March 2013 at 2:30 a.m. in the morning.
There's a lot of threes in that.
Yeah, a lot of threes. I was lying awake in bed, just felt like just a bit lost, like, and I was searching for something. Had basically, like, for the years previous had worked as a plumber. Didn't enjoy it, didn't like it at all. And probably the most reason because I was a terrible plumber. I ended up like flooding loads of houses and doing a lot of damage. And quite often I used to not get in much trouble because people seemed to kind of like me. And so I was like, okay, maybe I'm more of a people person than a plumber. And I was searching for something, and I think you know a lot of the story, Jackie, but I was just searching for something with more meaning, like searching. I didn't even know what it was, to be honest. And
John, not to interrupt you, but I'm totally going to interrupt you. Have you ever been to the Blarney Castle? Like,
I've been. I haven't kissed the stone.
You didn't either. All right, we've both been and didn't kiss the stone, so we have no excuse. I just want to say right out front, like, come on.
Too many people.
I know. I think maybe we did it like before we were born. So
yeah, I think we could have.
All right. So
yeah, basically, I read a journal entry from this guy that was traveling across Italy, and he basically was in Naples, I'm pretty sure it was, and he witnessed like what was called Cafe Sapeso, but loosely translated to suspended coffees. He saw it in action, and he basically wrote a story about it, said how one person come in, said, you know, can I have one coffee and can I pay it forward for another person? And basically kind of talked about how it was an old tradition that originated in the working class cafes of Naples about 100+ years ago. It's a very strong tradition still, even in Naples. And I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And your man's story was starting to gain a lot of traction. So I had a look, like, I was like, oh, is there anybody promoting this or celebrating it or talking about it beyond this guy's story? And there was nothing or no one. So I did what any normal 28-year-old failed plumber would do at that time in the morning. I basically got up out of bed and I set up a Facebook page, and I spelt coffees wrong in the address of the Facebook page. And really, honestly, had never done anything digitally really up until that point, and didn't have a clue what I was doing. But I knew that the concept behind it, that, you know, kindness could change the world, and kindness could inspire people, and kindness could bring people together, was something so special. And it was like, it was really just current at the time. Like, it was like people were craving for it. And I just started reaching out to everyone and anyone who would listen, you know, asking them to follow the page, share the story, you know, basically promote it. And I just started sharing stories about people doing kind acts, because my belief was the more people hear these things, you know, the more it can spread, rather than traditionally would we believe if you do something kind, you shouldn't tell anyone. Which is fine in certain situations, but you want to inspire people to be better and show them that there's a world full of kindness. And so that's pretty much what I did. And whether it was by skill or by accident, I believe it was more by accident, ended up like thousands of people started following it really quickly, made national, international media, Huffington Post, loads of big publications, all wanted to speak to this failed Irish plumber who knew nothing really about the concept, couldn't spell it, had never drank coffee in his life. And that's like the God's honest truth. I'd never even tasted coffee at this point. But I just kept saying that, like, kindness could change the world, and it was an incredible thing. And stories started to come in really quickly. And I just saw like it was having a huge impact on people. So I was like, oh shit, I gotta stick with this and spread the word. And over a couple of years, ended up like 500,000 followers around. I think there was over 5,000 cafes in 34 different countries. There was millions of coffees suspended, made huge media. Everybody asked me to talk about it, one of which was a TEDx talk that I gave, which was like only the second time I ever spoke in public. And yeah, I just kept telling everyone about the importance of it, and honestly, not having a clue what I was doing, but feeling something. You know, I felt something to this day that I can't fully explain. You know, and that was kind of my thing. And then obviously, you know, COVID happened. A lot of cafes closed down. It kind of, I think, it ran its course. You know, and this guy obviously reached out to me, or this person reached out to me, sorry, and was like, oh, there's people within TED writing a book. Would you like to be featured? Or would you be happy to be in it? And honestly, I thought it was a scam. I was like, oh, do I have to send my bank details or what?
Yeah,
like, not in the bank, so you can have the details. But turns out it was legit. It was somebody from the research team. And then obviously got to connect with Chris, who was just an incredible person. He spoke about me on his talk about the book as well, and invited me to the live event and stuff. And I got to meet him in London and hang out with him and spend a bit of time with him and just tell him a bit of my story, and just saw that he was just, I mean, the type of human being you would just dream of meeting, like, you know. And then this handsome man came along. Well, he came along a bit before, but I ignored him. Do you know, I was playing hard to get, Jackie, which you have to do something.
Well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And met him, spent time with him, and just saw that, like, even though we were very different people, that we were, like, as the saying goes, cut from the same cloth, like, you know. Just I'd never met somebody that probably believed in kindness as much as, even more than me, I think, really, to be honest with you. And it was just like, holy shit, this person sounds too good to be true. And obviously, the more time I spent with him, I was like, you know, this is absolutely just a very special human being. So whatever it is that he's doing, if I can be a part of it, that would be incredible. And if he thinks I'm good enough to be a part of it, then he obviously has some little flaw, but he's, you know, he's still a very special person. And we got to kind of work and launch this project, which is, I mean, stuff I dreamed of all my life, really, to be honest. Yeah, was I supposed to say that shorter?
No, that was perfect.
I can't
Actually,
convince you. You know this.
I smiled when you said it was your second time you've spoken in public, thinking you've done a lot of speaking in private to get used to it.
it's not the same though. It's not the same thing.
Would
You
you
know
believe I've
that.
always I've
Yeah.
always actually been quite shy. Like you mightn't
I
believe it.
do believe it. So our second podcast interview, Irvin's not here, but if you ever meet him, you'll know that he's also quite extroverted these days and very talkative, like me. We both were extremely shy children, very quiet, and both of us like basically taught ourselves to socialize from books. Like we're like odd people that had a hard time with social interaction, and we talked about like that you never quite lose that shyness, even when you do get to the point where you can speak in front of crowds or hold a conversation with anybody in the grocery line or whatever. There's something different about having started from that place of being quiet, introverted, shy, so yeah, even though we talk a lot now. So obviously that brings us to current times and back to that room we were in at South by Southwest, and you had an event going on. You have these people that you call cats, right? The catalysts, and some of them were at that event. So tell me a little bit about the project itself, maybe like what are you doing now? And then also like tell me about that catalyst thing and how that got started. Maybe we'll let Tom have a turn here.
Yeah. I'll give you the shortest elevator pitch I can, and
Sure.
You said earlier that you describe it differently each time. So do we, Jackie. So it's a social experiment. We're giving 1,000 people $500 to pay it forward, basically.
It's way more impressive if you describe it as giving away $1 million, by the way. That million gets people's attention real quick.
Yeah. We'd say that it's actually half a million, yeah. So.
Half a million. I can do math, I promise. No.
So over a 2-year period, of which we're pretty much halfway through, we're giving away the $500,000 to 1,000 people in $500 increments. So micro grants. To get a grant, people submit their ideas through our website, and through the form, we basically ask them to share how they're going to spend their money through an act of kindness. We tell them that they can't just give the money, pay the money itself on. They have to use it to buy something or to hire something or to put towards the cost of expressing themselves in aid of someone else. And we really encourage them to try and be as imaginative and as creative as possible.
Which they are. I mean, unbelievably so. Yeah.
Yeah. And the goal of the project is actually to create 1,000 stories. And, again, the thread here is that the power of these stories, especially online, can spread and inspire people. So we wanted to show that kindness, giving, social good, whatever you want to call it, is a blank canvas. It's not just donating money to charity. It's not just volunteering.
Yeah, one of the things that's come up a few times on I participate in the monthly calls, and the difference between generosity and charity, right? Like these little differences, and there does seem to be a distinction, right? It's not about just like giving money away. If it was just that, there wouldn't be much to talk about here, right? It's something else.
Yeah, there'd be a way more tax efficient way to do it than we're doing it, if it was just funding nonprofits and charities. But I don't know why, but I think a lot of people, the perception of whether it's generosity or charity, but certainly charity, is really just those two things for most people. I should donate, I should support a cause, or support my friend who's fundraising for a cause, or I should donate my time to a cause. And those two things are wonderful. And if the world spent more time doing those two things, we'd all be okay. But it's also true that my neighbor next door is lonely because his father just passed away. And that, every single one of us has all sorts of things going on. And with these 1,000 stories, we can show the breadth and depth of all the very many different ways there are to help people, and to show it as much as an act of duty as an act of creative expression too.
That is interesting because there is an artistic element to almost all of these projects, you know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The one that comes to mind right away though is the pony. I mean that one is, I don't know. There's a lot of stories already that you guys have been featuring, you know, and we don't have time to even begin to cover like the 200 that you've already funded, you know. But there's just this like joyful element to them that's really remarkable. So.
Just I mean, just to talk to the breadth already with those 200. So there are 3 pony related grantees.
There are 3.
I think I know which one you're talking about, but John, John probably does.
I'm thinking of the one that visits elderly people. I forget the woman's name, but she's lovely.
Yeah, calf.
Calf, yes,
Yeah.
that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, so the calf one was again, it was, you know, just such a different idea. We basically had this guy Bailey who was like, "Can I bring a Shetland pony into elderly care home?" We were like, well, Tom, I was like, "Shit, I don't know if we can do that." And Tom was like, "Absolutely, yes, that's exactly what we can do. It's the type of thing I love." And he basically like found this amazing lady calf who runs like this equine kind of business that, like, you know, just looks after people in elderly care homes. So she'd bring in, you know, miniature Shetland 33-inch Shetland ponies. They're 33 inches, which is
There's the 3.
and yeah, just has an incredible experience with them, and she's such a special human being as well. But I actually went over to witness it, and like I mean, I knew it would be good, but it was beyond anything I could ever even really properly explain. Like, you know, when Shetland Pony went into the care home, there was these people who hadn't left their room in months. You know, there was elderly people in there with dementia. They're lonely. They, you know, literally wouldn't socialize with anyone, and just the joy, the pure unadulterated joy in their faces when they saw the Shetland Pony was just such a special experience, and it brought back so many incredible memories for them when they were younger, and they got to pet the pony, and, you know, they got to pet the Irishman and the head a little bit as well, which I think a lot of them enjoyed. And it was just one of those things that you could never, you know, you could never imagine could have such an impact on them. And I think from what I'm hearing to this day, it's pretty much what they talk about daily. And just Kathleen, who obviously looks after them, has just such an incredible way with the elderly, like talks to them, you know, in just such a sincere, genuine way, and really brings them out of themselves, like, you know, chatting about their childhood, chatting about as they got older, and just making them just so happy, like. And it, you know, again, you went, oh, a Shetland pony in a care home, but like just such a special, incredible experience. And there was the only downfall in the whole day was that the Shetland pony headbutt me into the nether region. Other than that, it was a pretty incredible, special day.
Well, that was roughly around the time I started like following those stories, and that happened to be one of the first ones that I encountered, and I was like, all right, now I was already interested from watching the workshop, but to see it kind of go from what we were talking about in March to, like, you know, a realization of it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But I want to jump back though to the cats. Like, tell me about that. Who are they? How did that start? You know, they seem like they're really intriguing people, that group. So
they're amazing. I'll tell you where the insight kind of came from for that part of the project, and then John, you can take us through who they are, because they are just a wonderful group. But Jack, we realized, so we launched the website back in November last year, 2024, and I think it might have even been the first Friday. So on Fridays we go through all of the ideas that have been submitted, and
including mine, by the way. You know, I'm an official reject for the Drop Dead Generous grant funding. My karaoke machine with squirrels was turned down.
We weren't entirely sure you were being serious.
I was not.
We do have, as we sort of go through the ideas, we kind of tag each idea with various bits of information. We have one category of rejection, which is piss take, and yours was just the second one we've ever had out of about 800 ideas now that went.
I'm happy I belong in that small group. It was literally a way. I mean, obviously, I go to the monthly calls, and I said I can't really apply because I'm friends with John, and it wouldn't feel proper anyway. And I didn't have a specific idea, but also, like and then he kept saying like, well, you should do it. But also at that point, I just wanted to get your attention and get you guys to call me so we could set this up. So I was like, fine, I'll go do it, you know. But I love that, like that actually, it was actually, it was still useful because I get to see what people go through that when they do, and how they have to present their idea and how you respond. Like you have those automated messages that come like, you know, hey, we've received your submission and this is what happens. And it's helpful for like, if I do encourage someone else to apply to the process, now I have a better understanding of what that looks like. So it was fun, but no, I don't have a specific project in mind. So I just enjoy the shenanigans. Yeah. But anyway, so back to the cats.
Yeah. So on that first week or so, we were reviewing the ideas. You know, John and I. You know, one of the early questions in the form is, please just take a moment to think about someone you know, or perhaps someone you don't, who's going through something and could do with you stepping up for them. And so even just the responses to those questions are amazing, because how often are we asked, or do we give ourselves time to spend a few moments thinking about someone who could do something up? So even those responses are actually really beautiful, as people sort of realizing and sharing about someone to their level of comfort, you know, who's going through something. And the next question is, if you had $500, what would you do to blow their socks off? And so that's where the creativity comes through, and we just smile at the thought of what people want to do and what they might end up doing. And then we're in this crazy privileged position of being able to press a button and send them money with really no questions asked. You know, we don't do any due diligence. We want these grants to come coddled in a load of trust and good faith as well. And so, you know, just doing those early idea review sessions, and also in consideration of the fact this whole thing is a social experiment, we realized that aside from giving away the money, we could perhaps give away that process, that experience of giving away the money, because it was just so joyful. It was amazing. We do these things on Fridays. We go bouncing into the weekend, just feeling like the world is amazing because everybody wants to help everybody, and like we can do something about it. And so the genesis of the idea of the cats was, you know, are there some of our early pool of grantees that we can go to and say, would you like to help us give away this money? Just find people in your local communities, in your local cities, who you think would do something amazing with $500, have a chat with them about what idea they might have. And we've given them all golden tickets, basically. So these physical, literal cards that I have somewhere right here that says, on one side, we want your kind. And on the other side, dear, insert name here, you are drop dead generous, so we want to give you $500 to spend on an outrageous act of kindness, pretty please. And so now there are 10 people around the world giving our grants away on our behalf, giving the money away on our behalf. And I hope experiencing in that same sense of amazingness that they're able to kind of enable people to do something pretty cool. But there's 10 of them, and they're dotted all around the world, and it's been one of John's job to herd these cats. We call them catalysts because they're catalyzing the project, but we've called them cats for short. And so John is
an official cat herder.
Tom's obsessed with cats.
You were already an official cat herder before you got an additional crop of cats, I think. So yeah. That's incredible. It's good to understand the genesis of how that worked. It seems to have worked, because when we get on those monthly calls, there's always someone talking about a project, and they almost always are like, and it's because I met a cat. And it's like at least once every call. So clearly it's effective, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great in that, you know, so I guess the intention was to share that experience, but actually the benefits has been that the ideas that come through these cats are vetted more than they would be otherwise coming straight to the website.
Sure.
Actually, a lot of these cats like really handhold each grantee often through their whole project. And a lot of the cats have different skills. We've got a chap, Marcelo, in Brazil, who's a journalist. So actually he'll find someone, give them a grant, they'll do their project, and then he'll go and get press around what they did, and then that press will amplify their project. And so the the benefits of it have sort of far exceeded what we thought. But for me, John, I don't know if you say the same. I think the most important thing for me about it has been actually just the message of, like, we should just decentralize this as much as possible, share and give as much of it as we can beyond the money, but the process and the permission and the autonomy and everything. You know, I think the more this project is in the hands of everyone else and not just us, the better it will be.
Yeah, so much of what we do, so many of Tom's ideas, I'm like, Tom, we can't do this. We like, even when he come up the name first drop that genocide, I was like, it's a terrible name. We can't go with it. And like, even with that, like, you know, when he said to me, like, look at the joy we're experiencing giving out these grants, he was like, we got to find some people and let them do it. And I was like, this is a terrible idea. Which generally means it's a good idea. If my first reaction is it's a terrible idea. And I think experiencing it, actually, other people finding other people, and obviously they find amazing people, and they know them a bit better than what we would quite often. But actually, the impact it has on the cats themselves is something I just never thought. Like, you know, and look, life can be busy. Some cats would do more some months, and some would do more other months. But like, you know, each of them, just the impact it's had on them, even the impact of this, and just being able to kind of go to people, oh, we got these golden tickets from this thing, and like the first thing everyone says, like, nobody believes them, like, because it just sounds too good to be true. But it's like somebody submits an idea from them, but there's a part of them in each idea, and knowing that that's living through them, and the ripple effect of whatever the person does is going to always be a part of them finding that person, is just so cool for all of them.
I was just looking because my golden ticket from MisfitCon is, let's see it in the corner there. You can see that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, see the golden ticket right there.
Oh, they had a golden ticket for that.
I don't think you didn't get one of those because that was year one, probably.
No, I didn't.
So and you know, yeah, let me just because you showed me yours and it's incredible. I don't know, John, if you didn't get one of these, then it's amazing that you guys kind of independently did something.
Yeah, no, I never got one of them.
So that's year one MisfitCon. And there's the back, you know, and it's a treasured possession, you know. Like I literally got a golden ticket to go to that conference. So, but yes, something like parallel in the thinking or the like-mindedness, you know, of the concept of like, let's get the right people in the room, and who knows what'll happen. And so, and the spreading of goodness, you know. I don't know. There's a thread that runs through all of these things that connects them together. I'm just going to jump back because I tried to write you guys an email once, like, you know, maybe a few months into this, and I'm like going to these monthly calls, and, you know, it's been a difficult year for me for personal reasons. And like, these people just are uplifting. That WhatsApp group that you guys formed, and like, just the little thing, like there was a time where we were just sharing garden pictures every day. People were just like taking pictures of like, look what flowers bloomed in my garden this week. And it's just the strangest little sidetracks from the central thing of like these projects, you know, the friendships that form, you know, like I ended up sending a painting to someone. I don't even remember who's the name right now, you know, but I painted a picture, posted a picture, ended up mailing it to her, you know, just these weird little side connections. And it's just like bringing the joy to each other very naturally, right? But, you know, my whole internet journey way back, like, you know, I first stumbled into Twitter probably like 2010 or so. And the very first person I met early in that journey was Andy Smith, and he was doing a project called the Dragonfly Effect. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one. He wrote a book about it, and it was the bone marrow registry. It was where there were people that had diseases where they had great difficulty finding a bone marrow match, and they figured out they could use social media to get people to like do the swab, send it in, like they could spread it, and then these people were finding, you know, incredibly rare matches for bone marrow transplant, and it's because of the power of social media to kind of distribute that really widely. So like from early on, I was really interested in like, how can we use these platforms to spread these social good ideas. So, I went from there to Hope Mob, which was Sean King, and it was kind of like GoFundMe. And similar to your project back in this is like 2012 or so, they were doing where people would submit stories of people that needed help, and then people could like earn points and vote the stories, and then they would get more attention and they would get more donations to the story.
Yeah.
So it was like a social voting. You could kind of like get the money to the ones that needed it most, kind of thing. It was very experimental, and they were trying, and it didn't work. It had problems. Like obviously it kind of had the typical problems of like the cute kids get the most money, kind of, typical charity problems, but it was an experiment. And and then Sean King went on to do like political stuff and left that arena, but I was part of that. And then after that, I joined Mark Horvath, and we did Invisible People. He still does it. It's an online peer-to-peer group for homeless and formerly homeless,
Sure.
and that exists to this day. I mean, Mark does incredible work, but the idea again of like, can we use social media in an unconventional way to let people who haven't had a voice, or who, and to spread help between people. So, and most of the things I've encountered, had problems, or they weren't effective, or, the people involved just, have difficulty corralling the attention when it comes. Because as you know, John, from Suspended Coffees, like, you can get a lot of attention and things can go viral. And then if you're not prepared to handle what comes with that, it can fizzle. But I've been part of it throughout. And then I get to your project and I'm like, okay, like this one is getting like traction, and I'm fascinated that all these people independently kind of did these social experiments, and kind of like are trying to leverage this, this whole ecosphere, and I feel like since, X kind of blew up, the internet has really fractured into strange little silos, and no one's really sure what to do with these, and then I mentioned at the beginning of the call that AI is a whole other question that's like, coming up and interfering with like where the internet is now. But I feel like you guys have found a way to like take all of that evolution and effectively transmit change. And I think that's really, really great. And that's why I wanted to get you on to talk about it and feature it, but I wanted to give you a little bit of that context of my backstory, because like, I've always sort of like landed in the middle of this, like walked into your thing. It was like, hi, I'm here. What can I do? And that's just been, my journey. I've been floating around kind of like, finding these things, and part of this podcast is about like, let me just showcase all these incredible people that I've met in my journey, so we'll see what comes of it. But anyway, that's my backstory.
Well, can we
yeah,
use this opportunity, Jackie, to given all those experiences and those insights, like what advice would you be giving to us if we are you for it like we are? What advice? What things should we be looking out for? What mistakes have you seen in the past? What advice would you give?
I'm not sure that I have an answer ready, because each of those projects was really different from each other. Like the dragonfly effect, it was effective. I mean, it got the donors to the project, but then like social media changed on its own. Like it was, early Twitter just like was not the same as what happened when big brands got in, and then like the floodgates opened to, the world at large. So it wasn't like the project failed. It was like the world changed, and they didn't do anything wrong. And I'm sure they continued to do good work, Hope Mob, like the problem with it was it was an experiment, and the experiment just didn't work, right? Like the voting system, the mechanics of the platform, the technology wasn't ready, the infrastructure was wrong, and then it really failed because then Sean moved on to other projects and didn't have the bandwidth to deal with it anymore. So it wasn't like a thing they did either. Like it wasn't like there was something they could have done better and, you know, maybe not quit, maybe like, okay, learn from what's not working and evolve it and fix it, fine. But maybe they didn't have the resources, or I don't know. And then like, you know, the Invisible People is still up and running and works. You know, Mark does good work. And like when I say that it failed, it's not that it failed, it's that again, the internet's changing and the usage is changing, and all the nonprofits are struggling with, you know, people feeling like in certain economic times they don't donate to these causes like they did, and everybody's dealing with that kind of shift. So at that point, it's just a problem with the whole nonprofit sector. It's not, again, an individual project. So I don't have like a thing I can point to and be like, don't do this, you know, like it's like, don't let the world change. Well, the world's going to change. AI is going to come up. Like we're going to all have to deal with whatever the internet does, and wherever people go, what platform they end up with, you know. I know personally, like what I saw happening on Twitter in 2010 seems to be happening on Substack now for whatever reason, like, and I don't know that it will continue, but I see something interesting happening there. So like maybe that's worth paying attention to in terms of your project, like maybe have a presence in that ecosphere. Yeah.
So yeah, so interesting you said that, Jackie.
Yeah. But apart from that, like anyway, sorry, I could talk to you for hours about this topic because it's a real passion of mine. And I feel like we are a little off topic, but I do think that it's a question we're all going to be asking as we try to do this work, because it's like you're using tools and they're changing while you're using them. Like they're in your hands and they're evolving into a different shape, right? And you just have to like stick with it, I think. Find what works. I told John it's like the spaghetti at the wall metaphor. You just keep throwing it and see what sticks, and then you follow that thing, right? And that sounds like what you did, right, with the catalyst. Like you found an idea and you're like, let's take this experience and give it to another person, and then it's working. They're doing, you know, good things with it. So I think you're on the right track, you know.
It's funny. I think we're, yeah. If I look at almost every part of what we're doing, I think it is all going to change. You know?
Right. While you're in it.
Yeah, yeah. As in, like, you know, we're sort of in the process of, you know, reframing the criteria, the form, the user flow, how we publish our stories, what platforms we use. Even the CAT program is evolving. It's the experiment within the experiment. And it's just interesting because that's either at times of like quiet confidence, that feels like, you know, that's agility, and that feels like it's creativity, and it feels like it's all the right things. And then honestly, at times when there's sort of too much flux and the confidence is a bit low, we're thinking, my God, just finding out how not to do things the best way they could be done. And, you know, should we be cracking things quicker? But it's just such a dynamic, like they say, the world changes, people change. And, you know, I think one thing John and I came into this is hopefully just a lot of humility of just being like, we don't know what will happen. And so we have to just observe and see what happens and try and build and support around that.
Yeah.
I don't think people really change, because it's like, I've been on the internet since I was a child. My father was a computer programmer. You know, I've had a computer since I was 2. I grew up in this world. And I remember really early internet. I remember, you know, bulletin boards. I remember like all these different platform changes. I've seen it. I've grown up with it. People didn't change throughout. Like the good people were always there. There's this idea that like somehow like it went bad, or like bad people got in, bad players got in. And I'm thinking like that was always there from the beginning, but the good people were always there, and they just moved around, you know, and they're still moving around, but they're always there. The people didn't change, the technology's changed, that's all, you know. But like I really have faith that like it'll work itself out, you know.
Yeah. Technology and the algorithms. The algorithms is the big one, I think. But that's probably a topic for another day. But one of the things I think as well about this project that is quite special that Joe and Tom has really pushed for from the beginning is like to basically have like creativity, you know, within it. Joe's obviously one part, but actually, you know, to test things, to not be afraid to get something wrong,
Yeah.
you know, to experiment. So it's easy to call something a social experiment and then not to experiment. And we've experimented with so many different things. And as well, like the other thing that Tom kind of said from the beginning, I think that'll always stay at the core of this project is like, so yeah, we give people $500, but like if we give them 100% us and like, you know, as much support as we possibly can, you know, in whatever way that might look like, you know, I mean, you have to be realistic too, that's something that we always have to do, like, you know, and I know it will change and evolve, but I think the core fundamentals of why we're doing this and what it is are always going to stay. And Tom obviously has his own quite a special background in experimenting with projects like this as well. Which
I mean, we're getting close to an hour, so I don't want to make you guys go over because I know you have more things coming up. So, you know, I would love someday Tom, to ask you more about that backstory because I think there's some there. But I do think I remember being in the room during South by and watching you guys evolve it in real time. You're like, let's try these questions. And then they came in and then you're like, oh, that didn't work. Let's try it this way. And you have that ability to like, you know, try something, look at what's working, what's not working. And you're very earnest about it. Like, and you just keep going. And I can see how much it's evolved already. And I think it's going to be really amazing to see. I don't know, we should probably do like a retrospective in a year or something, because who knows what is going to happen between now and like, you know, what, next August, right? So
in jail, I reckon that's my bet.
But I do feel lucky catching you guys this early in it, because I think like it's fun to not know where it's gonna go from here.
And again, like we haven't done anything like this, so we had an opportunity at the beginning to do a lot of podcasts, a lot of different kind of media stuff, and we kind of, Tom's whole thing, and both of us, it wasn't just Tom, but Tom was like, you know, we haven't really done anything yet, like we don't really have anything to talk about, so we're like, okay, let's put all that stuff to the side and not do it. And I think now we obviously have a bit more substance. But again, one of the things he said, you say a lot of things that I remember, Tom, was like, the most special thing about this project won't even necessarily be the 1,000 people that we fund. It'll be the people outside of the 1,000 people that we fund. And I think you're actually such a great example for that, Jackie. So like you show up to every circle thingy every month. You offer so much, like you give to the community. I know people just love having you there and how you are and how you show up. And there's so many instances of that happening within this project as well. So it's just definitely something that makes it very, very special, is like, because it's easy just 1,000 people, but what happens beyond that, you know? Even the recipients and
we didn't have time to get to the stories because there's so many in your project, but you know, we're at the very end now, and I just want to say the thing that hung around with me most, I don't remember who it was, but somebody took the shoes off their feet to give to a homeless person and told that story on one of the calls. And
that
you don't forget. Yes.
Yeah.
You just don't forget that. You know, you go away from that call and all the other crazy stuff in the world is happening in politics and people are upset and there's daily life. And you just think somebody took the shoes off their feet and gave them away. And it stays with you, you know, like, those are powerful stories, you know, and that's one tiny story, you know. So
and in the spirit of that, Tom, I won't say your favorite story because I mean they're all so different, but what's one that springs to mind when I ask you this question that might be a good one to share for you? And I'll do the same.
Well, I think the one I think about a lot, because I think actually this is a story that is not necessarily about like insane creativity and imagination, nor is it, you know, a simple moment of you know, one particular moment. We have a grantee in southern Brazil, Jackie, who is we might have mentioned this in one of our circle things, but she's creating a book club in a prison wing where there are 49 men incarcerated. So she's volunteering her time. She's spending the grant money on buying the books. What I love about this idea is actually the strategy, because her goal is, over the course of the year through these monthly book clubs, is to get these prisoners really excited and capable and confident in reading and writing. And then she said there's a program in Brazil where if you read a piece of local literature and write a report as a prisoner that goes to your local library, you actually get 4 days off your prison time. So her like strategic thinking is, I'm going to start with a book club. I'm going to get them all to realize reading is not intimidating and that they can do it. And then enroll them on this program and get them time off their sentence through this rehabilitation program. And then if she can do this with this one wing, she's going to get the whole prison signed up. And there's only 7% of prisoners in Brazil who sign up to this program. She wants to use it, the story. So just the strategy of, if I do this one thing, lead to that could lead to that could lead to that. It just blows my mind. And to think, that's one grant doing that, and if a handful of other grants do something similar, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. I've told people that story a few times, but you tell it so much better, because I'm terrible for the detail. And I get so excited about
it's hard to tell them. Like, I tell people all the time, and it's so hard to like get the details right. And
but very often it is just, someone took their shoes off for someone else,
that's stuff. That's
the story, that's the message, that's the thing. And then sometimes it's more of like the thinking and the strategy, which is why I like that idea, because actually
just the day of the call, like, I just walk around smiling the rest of the day. It gets you. So I don't know, John, what's your story?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's so many, but I think one that really just stands out to me, kind of just explains this project, I think, so well. We had this guy, Brambale.
I was hoping you would tell his. That's so funny. I wanted that one.
So he basically reached out to us, submitted an idea. The idea wasn't quite right. We didn't fund it. But we saw, one of the things that we see when people submit ideas is like, the idea might be quite right, but the person just really kind of stands out and stuff. And just, there was a few things about his submission that were like, oh wow, but like felt really bad that we couldn't fund it. And then we had a circle thingy, and he actually turned up to it. Didn't know he was coming.
I was at that one, yeah.
And he turned up to the circle thingy, and I was like, oh, that's my belly. And he had the most just beautiful smile, like just the energy off of this guy was just amazing. And I kind of said in the call, look, if anybody wants to chat about their idea, whether you've been funded or not funded, reach out to me, and I'm happy to chat and stuff. And he booked in a call with me, and he was like, look, John, I know my idea wasn't funded, and I just want to say how much I admire you and the project. And I was like, look, there's still probably an idea that you can come up with. And I said to him, because in his submission he said like he was a dancer and a tailor, and I was like, shit, this is kind of cool, but he mentioned nothing about it in his original idea. So I just encouraged him to lean into that and to really think about something that was very close to his heart, something very personal, and that he could potentially use his talents with as well. And he came back with just the most amazing idea. He lives in a place in Uganda. Again, this is where I lack the detail, but it's a town in Uganda that is notorious for thuggery, prostitution, crime, gang violence, child soldiers, all of these different things. And you don't even tell people you're from this place, because it's just so bad there. And he's basically part of this dance crew, and he has the kind of head of the dance crew is like a guy that he really looks up to and is like his mentor, an incredible guy who works with all the youth and everything. And he was like, I think I want to change the entire reputation of my town to not be known about the bad, but to actually be known about the place where the best dancers come from. And he said, but when they train at the dance floor, it's all broke up, it's all rubble, it's next to near impossible. And he was like, my idea is to build a new dance floor and to bring all of the youths together to tell them they can be the best in the world. And he wanted to do that because of his mentor, who basically runs the whole thing, has been such a support and such an inspiration to him. And just he's just become such a part of this project now. We've so many people kind of reaching out to us from Uganda, and he touches base with all of them. He knows some of them, he doesn't know a lot of them, but he's happy to talk with them and explain the idea and the concept. And
I'm so glad you chose that one, because that story just blew my mind. I was on that call, I heard him, and then I think he was back another time, and he was talking about like how I think he got the grant, and then like there were like animals sleeping in the dance floor or something. And I was like, it was wild, like the stories. And I was like, this is extraordinary. Like to get a window into a life that's so different from mine and such a different part of the world, and it just puts your whole day in perspective real fast.
So they worked so hard. He got loads of people helping everything to pour the concrete, like mix it all and put it all down the floor. And that night he came to check on it, and he realized that like the local kind of stray dogs were sleeping.
The dogs, it was the dogs, yeah.
And he even said like he was so mad, like because
and then he was like, oh well, we're gonna let them because it's warm for them. And I was like, oh my god, he incorporated the dogs into like he wasn't like, oh, we're gonna chase them off and like it was just, I mean, you could write like a whole book just about that one project.
It's their home too, is pretty much what he said. And just this kid who wants to change the entire reputation of his town and give young people, you know, a voice and a purpose. And again, look, there's so many amazing things have happened from that story as well, and there's so many other incredible stories. But it's one that I always love, because I mean, initially his idea wasn't an idea we funded, you know. But he showed up. He even said in the call, I think I'd emailed him back one day, and he said in the call, he was like, John, it's so unusual to get a response from someone like this. You know, it's amazing to know that there's another person on the end of these emails. And him and a friend of his who's submitted an idea now again were on a call with me the other day, and they were like laughing and joking. They were like, honestly, we thought this entire thing was a scam, because normally people, they don't send emails telling you can have $500. The lads were like, the emails normally come the other way. And they were laughing. It was really funny. And just, an infectious human being who's doing amazing work. And pretty much everybody in this project is that, which makes it just such a privilege to be able. Honestly, people say thanks to us, and I'm like, I'm almost embarrassed, because I'm like, no, thank you guys for believing and for trusting and for sharing your idea, because maybe it's not an easy thing to share an idea either, like, you know. Very, very special. Amazing.
I don't know. I'm so glad you guys came. Like, I know we're a little over time and I need to wrap up, but you know, I wish I could speak you for hours. Yeah. Like, oh, that's true. We did start a little late, but just, it was such an obviously, John, I was just happy to see you in March, but then like when I just sort of ended up in that room and watched what you guys were doing, and I was like, just, drawn to it, and I've continued to watch it unfold in the background, and like, I'm just excited about it. I want to share it, and I know you said you haven't done a lot of interviews and that sort of thing. So this is, I don't have a big audience on this podcast yet, guys. I'm pretty sure it's like my best friend and my mom right now, but I can promise you there's a lineup of people to follow you that are equally extraordinary. And I'm pretty sure this will get some traction down the road. So I'm hopeful that we can maybe do like a revisit, in a year and see where you're at. And hopefully by then we'll see where I'm at. But even if nothing ever comes of this, like just personally, the joy it's brought to my life has been incredible. And I'm really grateful. So thank you.
Jackie, thank you. My pleasure.
And honestly, just to echo what John said earlier, like your support back, you turning up to these calls, and it just means the world. It really does. It really does. So thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't miss it for anything. Then that's a good place to end. So I'm going to say goodbye. Goodbye, lovely people. Bye, Mom. Bye, Becky. Nice for the two of you to watch. Bye, Elaine. I know who my 3 viewers are. So, all right. Love you guys. All right. Stop the recording.